everybody. Welcome back to Wisper University. We are on our, I don't even know what number, speaker leadership series here. This is our second one with Jeff. Jeff, thank you for coming back. I know we had a great time last time, and I'm excited to get into this one.
Well, thanks for having me back. I look forward to it, and I've enjoyed following the series and listening to the other speakers as well.
Awesome. So this time we are looking at the law of the lid of leadership. Before we get too far into that, do you want to give us a little bit of a recap of last time for anybody that might have missed it?
You bet. And the law of the lid kind of is just I say it's a follow-up. John Maxwell's first real book on leadership was the 21 Laws of Leadership. And law number one is the law of the lid. Later came the 5 levels of leadership, but I really do believe they're tied together. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the 5 levels of leadership and the fact that as leaders, we need to continue to strive to climb the levels and try to get to at least to be a level 4. Level 4 leaders are when people follow us. Level 4, we begin to have influence over our team and our organization. And as John Maxwell says, leadership's influence, nothing more, nothing less. And if we don't have that influence, then we really aren't going to be true leaders. We're going to struggle. And so as we talked about the 5 levels and said, level 1 is you got the title, and that's about it. Level 2 is people will follow you because they like you and you have the title. Level 3, you've done it before. You've led your team in sales, or you led your team as a number 1 technician or installer or whatever it is, and people like you and you have the title. But the true influence comes when we become level 4, and that's when we start developing other leaders. And that's important that we understand that as true leaders, we should always be looking at what's our lid? Where's our cap? We all have a cap. That cap is the level of our skills as a leader, and we need to always be growing that, climbing this ladder. John Maxwell says the higher you climb, the more you're going to need leadership. And the greater the impact we make, the greater our influence will be. It's all about influence. It's all about striving. And true leaders, top performers, are always growing. So as we recap the level 4, just quick recap of what that means. Level 4, leaders build leaders. They're always pouring into each other. They're pouring into other leaders on their team. Level 4 leaders, we get the influence of people follow us. They follow us because they know we're going to do what's best for them and the company. Level 4 leaders look at every opportunity to develop others, to pour into others. And then they're always looking for new leaders to come into. And then they choose those and they mentor those leaders. And that's a level 4 leader. Now, here's the thing. If I don't have the skill set myself, if I don't have the ability needed, the skills needed to be a great leader, I can't mentor anyone and I can't lead others. And so that's the level, the law of the lid. The law of the lid says that we have to understand where we are, and to increase our influence, we have to increase our skill set.
Perfect. So I got a chance to sort of read through the law of the lid a little bit, at least to my understanding. And so what I took away from it was just that the lid being the sort of the max amount of effectiveness that someone has in their leadership ability. So looking back at last week, how can we tie in that lid, that uppermost level, into where we are as a leader, especially if you happen to be a level 4 leader, if you've made it that far?
Okay, good questions. And so it really goes back to understanding who we are and where we are in our skill set. As I'd mentioned a couple weeks ago on the 5 levels. When I go in and do leadership training for an organization or a one-on-one leadership coaching, most people think they're a 4 or a 5 leader. When we start taking the deep dive into what each of those levels are, the leaders usually realize they're a 2 or a 3. Hopefully they're a 3. Mm-hmm. And that's understanding where our lid is. And so there's a big difference between being a great leader and a great manager. The graphic I have up here kind of shows the difference between leadership and management. Weak managers, but strong leader, we're still out of control. Weak manager and a weak leader, we got chaos. And we've all seen that. We've worked under that. A strong manager, someone who's a very good manager, but they're a weak leader, they over control. They're micromanaging. So we're all striving the perfect skill set, that the best skill set to be a top leader is to be both a strong manager and a strong leader. And that all hems around development, developing others, developing great processes, developing and listening to our team. John Maxwell says good leadership isn't about advancing ourselves. It's never about us. Good leadership is about advancing those on our team. As I go into different organizations, and a lot of times I'll sit down and spend a day or two with a team. I did this a couple years ago at Wisper, and so we pass out a leadership assessment, and everybody answers these 20 plus questions, and then we get our average, and our average is between a 1 and a 10. And we understand that then if we take the average of the team, that's the team's lid. That's the team's leadership lid. That makes sense. The average of all the leaders. And so again, always striving to raise that lid.
Perfect. So how do we raise that lid both as a team and as an individual?
So various ways to do it. Number one is training. The great thing about leadership is it's a skill. Skills, we're not born with skills. We're taught skills. Doesn't matter where we are in our leadership journey. We can continue to grow those skills. We can continue to learn new skills. We can raise our lid by going to leadership webinars, leadership seminars like today, hiring a coach, getting a mentor. I love the phrase that John Maxwell says that we need to do something beyond ourselves. If we want to become a good leader and raise our lid, we got to do something beyond ourselves. I think that's another way of saying we got to get out of the box. Once I understand where my lid is, and if I stay there, I'm in a box, and I'm never going to grow. And so if I go beyond myself, that means I'm stretching, I'm growing, I'm increasing my leadership skills, which increases my influence. And one thing that I like to do with teams is ask them to reflect on someone who was a lid lifter in their life. In other words, who came in and loosened the cap on their lid and lifted them up out of this little box they had themselves in? Who helped them believe in themselves and believe that they could be more, do more, accomplish more, and then say, I want to be like them? Because that, again, back to the level 4 leadership, we need to be lid lifters of others. And so how do we do that? Look at someone who lifted your lid, somebody who helped you, a mentor along the way, someone who took you under their wing and helped you and taught you. And by doing that, then if we start modeling them, then we're going to become a lid lifter, and lid lifters are top leaders. Does that make sense?
It does. So beyond looking at just kind of who these people would look to see who was a lid lifter for them, what other kind of questions would you ask them to look at in a session like that?
I always ask them, look in the mirror. If you just imagine this screen as a mirror, and I was doing a presentation, someone said, "Oh, have you ever thought of taking the picture of the team that you're coaching or training live and putting them on here?" So I want everyone to look at this mirror that's on here and watching this, and just imagine that's their picture in the mirror. And so we need to look at ourselves and see where our lid is. And then there's some questions we need to ask ourselves. So, excuse me, number one, am I, as a leader, passionate about my own personal growth? Am I passionate about raising my lid? Am I passionate about learning better skills and becoming better? There's a question that our team will always ask. If we think we want to develop leaders and we want to pour into our team and we want to be a level 4 leader, we need to ask ourselves, what do they think of us? And one question that I think that our team always looks at is, are you growing? Are you doing anything that's going to increase your skills? You want to pour into me, but I don't see that you've changed in years. You haven't read any leadership books. You haven't hired a coach. You haven't got a mentor. If you're not growing, people then are going to look at you and say, what do you have to offer me? And so we have to look at ourselves and ask these questions, and we have to understand that only growing people can help other people grow. Only growing people can help other people grow. Our team's going to look at us and they will want to learn if they see us learning new skills. We've all had mentors in our life, or I hope we have at different times. And we get excited when we see them reading new books, talking about new subjects, something that they came back from a weekend webinar or training. This weekend is Grant Cardone's doing a 3-day 10X virtual. I'm excited about learning from that and joining that. And many people probably look at me and say, Jeff, at your age, you've been doing this for 30 years. Why are you? I just want to learn one more new thing. And so our team's always looking at us and saying, what are you learning? And then if you're excited about learning, they're going to be excited about learning. And then we have to ask ourselves this question. And I remember the first time I heard this, it was one of those light bulb moments. As leaders, are we spending time with our team, or are we investing time with our team? So Susanna, let me ask you that. What do you think the difference is between spending time and investing time?
Well, so last week we did talk about the difference between just talking to someone and connecting with someone. And that sounds like we're going down a similar road there. So I would say you can spend time with somebody and still not make a deep connection. But if you're investing time, I think that's a deeper connection and a deeper level of communication.
It absolutely is. And it goes even further than that. We can think we're spending time with someone, and that's what we're supposed to do as leaders. A couple weeks ago, I shared the last one about the client of mine who took me on the tour through the factory, showed me around, and he didn't know the names of a lot of the people. Now, first step was getting to know the names of the people who work for him, but then that's spending time with them. But investing time with them would mean he knows their family, he knows their hobbies, he knows their story. That's investing time. And the neat thing about spending time and investing time, I took accounting in school. I was a business major, and so if I'm spending time, that means it's gone. It's time that I spent it and I got nothing in return. If I invest time, investing means I expect a return on my investment. The return on investment for a leader is that if they invest time with their team, they'll get a return back on that time. They're developing leaders. People want to be invested in. Nobody really cares if you invite them to a meeting or an after work dinner and they're just there. You just spent time with them. Investing time in them is helping them grow, helping them see what their capabilities are, seeing what their true potential is, and helping them grow their skill set. So spending time or investing time is real important. And so a question that we all need to ask ourselves, are we spending time with our team, or are we investing time with our team?
Let's see. So what other questions? So we've looked at personal growth. What other questions would you ask somebody in a session?
Well, if we're going to grow and if we're going to learn, we have to ask ourselves a tough question. Are we teachable? Are we teachable, or do we believe that we know it all? We've reached the pinnacle. I've got the title card. I can hold the title card up and wave it in front and say, look, I'm president of the company. I'm vice president of the company. I'm head of my department. And if we get to that and stop, we can become unteachable. Top performers are always learning. They're always out there trying to learn something new. They know that the world's moving super fast. What I learned yesterday is probably not going to help me get through a year from now. I heard a Harvard study, a talk a few months ago, that most college graduates, this was college freshmen this year, by the time they graduate, okay, so in the 4 years it takes them to go through, or 5 to graduate, within 10 years, what they've learned will not help them get through their career. In other words, the world's moving so fast, we can't teach them what's going to happen 10 years from now. And so I always have to be teachable, and top leaders always have to be teachable. And we have to understand then that we can't pour from an empty vessel. That's a saying that means so much, and we can't pour from an empty vessel. If I'm going to pour into somebody, I better be filling my vessel up all the time. I better be learning more, learning new things, so that I can share that with someone else. And then we have to understand what teaching really is. Teaching may help somebody's life improve. Let me say that again. Teaching may help somebody's life improve. If we pour into developing them, then we help their life change. We can improve somebody by teaching them something, but if we begin pouring into their development, then that's where true life change happens. And so if we're going to raise our lid, we've got to continually be going out there and growing. I heard something this morning that read something, and it's an old saying by Zig Ziglar that said something like this: if you truly want to make America better, you got to start making yourself better. And I thought about that in the terms of leadership. If I become a leader and I truly believe that I want to make a difference in the company, I want to make a difference in my department, I want to make a difference in my organization, I need to understand that difference begins with me. The difference begins that I have to start changing me first, because if I'm going to improve the company, I've got to improve myself first. And I have to continually improve myself, because the law of the lid says that the success of the company or organization I'm leading will never be greater than my lid. And so I have to continually be growing myself.
Yep. Sorry, I think I was muted there for a second. I don't know if everybody could hear me. So on that vein, what are some of do you have any favorite books that you've read, favorite speakers? Obviously, we've talked a lot about Maxwell. Do you have any Any other recommendations that you would give people of some of your favorite resources for personal growth and leadership growth?
Yeah, I think we start with the 21 Laws of Leadership. John Maxwell, it's kind of become the Bible and the of leadership. A lot of college and universities are now using that in their business management courses and have for years. Maxwell just rewrote a book a couple years ago and developing the leader within 2.0. So it kind of takes what we're talking about here. It takes the law of the lid and moves it into, how do I develop my skills? What can I do to develop my skills? And it really brings it into today's world. Webinars, YouTubes, reading books, listening to podcasts. I guess if I could, so 21 Laws of Leadership, one book, Developing Leaders Within 2.0 is another book. But I would say this, if you said, Jeff, give me one statement about becoming a better leader, I would say be intentional every day about growing.
One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know that I could trace it back now to who said it, but is that leadership is a choice, and it's a choice that we have to make every day to be that leader. I think that ties in pretty well.
Yeah, I love that. It's a choice. And so we have to be intentional every day in developing our team. We have to be intentional every day as a top leader in developing our skills. And we have to be intentional every day in understanding that leadership is just influence, and we can lose that influence in a heartbeat. So we have to really be intentional in considering the decisions we make and why we make them.
Yep, I agree. So if we don't have any other closing remarks for the law of the lid, I think we covered everything that I was going to ask. One thing I like to ask in these sessions from our speakers is if, your elevator pitch. So if somebody were to recognize you in an elevator and say, hey, you're Jeff Raver, you're a leadership speaker. Can you give me a quick, we've got 2 floors on this elevator before the doors open again. What, quick vital pieces of advice would you give somebody? What are the main things for them to look at if they want to increase their leadership ability and their potential as a leader?
So I would go back two statements by John Maxwell. Number 1, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Number 2, our influence is totally dependent upon our lid, and our lid is our skill set. So leadership's influence, nothing more, nothing less. Our influence is totally dependent upon our leadership lid, and we have to always be growing that and raising that lid.
Perfect. I think that would definitely help somebody out. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share? Do you have any links to your website, anything like that? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so begintowinnow.com. All one word, begintowinnow.com. And if anyone has any questions, they can also find me on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. And I'm always looking forward to speaking to groups and talking to companies, leaders, and obviously in today's world, like we're doing here, webinars. We can do a webinar for someone from anywhere in the world, and in a week's time, I'm talking to people in 8, 9, 10 states every week. So if anyone wants to reach out, and again, thank you guys for putting these on, helping other leaders. Nathan is always, I've been impressed with his leadership ability and his willingness to pour into others and make them better leaders.
Absolutely. We've been having a great time doing them. I have another one for anybody following the channel. We have another one coming up tomorrow at 2:00. So come back for that one. We have another one, I think, next week also. I'm scheduling some great ones with Microsoft. We're going to have some really good ones coming up. So make sure that you come back and see us. And Jeff, thank you so much for speaking with us this week and last time. I had a great time. Hopefully we'll get you into the office sometime soon when all of this craziness settles down a little bit. But I really appreciate it. And I think this has been a great learning experience for me personally, but also just for anybody who happens to be listening.
Well, thank you again. And I do appreciate, and you've done a great job of hosting this. And as I said last week, you've done a great job on your homework, not just letting me do the talking, but you've pushed me into making sure that I'm prepared as well. So I appreciate that. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You too. And we'll catch you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.